Okay, good morning. This is the seventh class in a series of classes on the discourse, the last discourse of the previous Lubavitch Rebbe. It's called Bati Legani, based on a section from Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs, which Song of Songs is a love song between God and the Jewish people, especially referring to the day that the Holy Temple was built by King Solomon. King Solomon built it. So the this Hasidic discourse called a Ma'amar. A Ma'amar explains that the day that the day that the temple was built, or more exactly, the day that the tabernacle was built in the desert by Moses, was the day that God came permanently to the world, like he was in the Garden of Eden when God created the world. What happened in the meantime? From the time that God created the world until God took the Jews out of Egypt and the tabernacle was built was about 2,500 years. So what happened in that meantime? In the meantime, there were generations that sinned and drove God's presence away, and then stood up Abraham, and he brought God's presence back into the world. Says the Rebbe, that is the name of the game. That's the name of the creation, to bring God's presence in the world and make it like it was when the temple, when God created it, and even higher. That was Adam's job, in fact, was to perfect the world. That was Adam's job, was to perfect the world. Make the world even more perfect than it was. But he didn't do the job, as we know. And 6 generations after him also didn't do it. So finally, he stood up 7 more generations, and beginning with Abraham, and brought God's presence, which is called the Shekhinah, back down into the world so that it could be felt by people. That was in the tabernacle, and nowadays that we don't have a temple, and we have to do this work ourselves. So this, the Chabad, the Hasidim have taken on themselves, Chabad Rebbe especially, and hopefully the Hasidim, is to bring this revelation into the world, and that is through Mashiach. That's the idea of the Mashiach, the Jewish Messiah, is to bring all of the Jewish people to do Torah and mitzvahs as they were given to Moses, and by means of that, change everybody's attitude and to bring godliness into the world. Oh, right. Wow. Forgot about this. Excuse me. There we go. All right, so we have discussed then that every Jew, in fact, is a holy temple, and every Jew has a animal soul. And this animal soul you have to sacrifice, or as the Rebbe explains, the word sacrifice means to come close, to bring it close to God. And in order to do that, there is fire that comes down from heaven, just like it was in the temple. And what is this fire? This fire is the fire of the godly soul that no water can put out. And what is this water that you might think could put out? The water is the confusion and the distractions and the, temptations and disappointments, etc. of the world. What? Is a Torah. Yes, of course, the Torah is also compared to water, yes. So there's two that God made the world in such a way that it's called Zeh Le'umot Zeh. In other words, God made the world in such a way that everything that there is in godliness has its counterpart in, how do you call it, egoness or confusionness. What is godliness? Godliness is a feeling and a revelation of the Creator, that God is creating everything and He's enlightening everything. So God is pure life and pure good and pure meaning and pure blessing. What is the world? The world is the opposite. And the world is what brings death. That's why Adam, when he ate from the tree, there was a new thing, death. The world is limitation. The world is basically meaningless, right? The famous French philosophers, tremendous geniuses. And they concluded the world is meaningless. They brought huge books, right? Being and nothingness, all these books explaining convincingly that the world is totally meaningless and life is totally meaningless, and that's the only way to really live life. Don't fool yourself. Just, live a meaningless life. And just, make the most of it. And comes the Torah and says, no, every instant of life is meaningful. So that's the idea of holiness. Holiness is meaning through the Torah. Infinite meaning through the Torah. In other words, connecting the creation to the Creator. That's called the water of the Torah, because water is life. But there's another type of life also, right? Another type of life, and that's the life of the world. A person wants to have a good time. Most people, the most boring thing you could possibly dream of would be to keep Shabbos. What do you do? You just do nothing. On the other hand, the most exciting thing is to, go out in the streets, maybe get in a fight or something, or see a fight, or, a little action. Drive your Harley 120 miles an hour, and all these things. That's actually, that's real life, Change wives every night, or change girlfriends, or take drugs and have a buzz and a feeling, and coasting and tripping, and things like that. That's called life. That's called the Mayim Rabim. That's called the confusing waters of this world. Like Alice in Wonderland, eat me, taste me, drink me, go here. Right? The world is very confusing, very tempting, very enticing. It offers you all sorts of things, and in the end, after you get everything in the world, you realize it's just really empty. It's really nothing, right? There's nothing compared to life without love. There's nothing. And these people, they don't want love. Love by them is like a physical experience. That's not real love. Life without faithfulness, without meaning, without blessing is basically life without joy. I remember, I'll tell you the story. Maybe it's not such a... there was a lot of factors that caused me to do tshuva. So one of them was I was a rock and roll singer in these bars. And so I started realizing something's wrong here. Something's wrong. I never figured out what it is, but something's wrong. Everybody's having a good time. They're all rocking. They're all enjoying. They're waving their hands and they're dancing. And they're... I said, there's something wrong. I can't figure out what it is. Something's wrong. Anyway, it's a long sort of a process, but finally, one day, I realized what it was. I was standing on this, and I was singing a song, and suddenly I realized, I know what's wrong. Everyone here, and the whole crowd was like, going crazy. There was maybe 150, 200 people. And they were all rocking this song, was really rocking, and I thought, I got it. Everyone here is depressed. That's why they're here. They're all depressed. And suddenly, for about maybe a tenth of a second, everything just stood still. It was like black and white, like that. Everyone went like that. I said, that's it. I'm getting out. I realized what was going on. No one was happy. They wanted to be excited, like depressed people go and live by the sea. Right? So they go and they live by the sea. So the sea is we're going back and forth, and the sea this so it distracts them, It distracts them from their own boredom and their own emptiness and their own meaninglessness. So huh? Yeah, sure. It was weeks later that I quit. I didn't just jump off the stage again. I mean, I enjoyed the music too. I enjoyed, but the whole, to think that was it, that was all, that was the mistake. To put it in its proper place is okay. To do, it could be done according to the Torah. I put it in its proper place. That, that would be a better way. But there's certain things that, if you make things cheap just for your own immediate pleasures, then it takes away meaning. It takes away any depth from it. Okay, let's go. Says that, Rabbi, that's what the Mayim Rabim are. And nevertheless, water cannot extinguish it. Okay, page 4. Where is page 4? Page 4 is the opposite side of page 1, if I'm not mistaken. Do you have page 1? Here it is. Here. Page 4, opposite side of page 1. You have it? Yes? Very good. Good. They cannot extinguish these waters of the world. Waters of the world, which are pleasures and confusion of the world, cannot put out, they cannot extinguish the fire, the rish pe'esh, of a flaming fire, ahava, of love, shebenefesh elokis, to the godly soul. Why? Because the rush pe'esh, that the flaming fire of love, of the godly soul who is bedumas, like Eishel, a fire from above. The ain a mayim, that there is no water, mechabimoto, that can put it out. So that's the godly soul. I'll tell you a story. This story was told to me by Rabbi Moshe in the Parsec. And the story is like this. There was in Hebron, I might have told this story, but in Hebron, in Tuf Reish Pei Tes, which Tuf Reish Pei Tes is 1929. So there was a beautiful Jewish community there. 1929, this is well before, this is 20 years before Medina Israel stood up. There was a beautiful Jewish community, and the people got along with the Arabs over there, and they used to go to each other's, weddings and things like that, and the women would talk over the fences, and, they were the best of friends. All of a sudden, one day, the Muezzin, or whatever it is in the Arab places of worship, they said, let's kill all the Jews. So all the Arabs came in from all surrounding areas, and they started killing Jews. And that was called the massacres of Tuf Reish Pei Tes, Tarpat it's called. And they started massacring Jews. They killed a lot of Jews. They maimed a lot of Jews. All the Jews are buried. There's one graveyard over there. You go to Hebron. You go into Hebron. That's what I said, Hebron? Yeah. You go to Hebron, you'll be there on Shabbos. And you'll see there's one graveyard that's just for those people. Just for those people. 70, 80 people. Huh? 80 people, something like that. You go in there, you see. This is the names. A lot of children were killed. There were a lot of people that were also maimed. A lot of people were maimed. A lot of people miraculously escaped. Anyway, so there was one Jew among these Jews. There was one Jew that was like a renegade. And he chummed around with the Arabs all the time. And he sort of looked a little bit like an Arab. He had red hair or whatever. He looked a little bit like them. And of course he knew how to speak Arabic fluently, and he was one of them. And people would, and he didn't keep Shabbos, and he didn't keep anything. He used to eat with them, be friendly with them. And I guess he was, had a nice personality, whatever it is. So they liked him. The Arabs, they got along with him. And the Jews would say, Menashe, his name was Menashe. Menashe, come back to Judaism. He used to drive his motorcycle on Shabbos through the Jewish section. That's just so. And they would say, Menashe, come back to Judaism. And he would say, I'm a good Jew, just as good Jew as everybody else. I don't have to do these kind of things. I'm just a good Jew. So when that day came and the Arabs started going through and killing everybody, so he was sitting with his friends, his Arab friends, in some house. So the Arabs, first of all, they killed all the Jews that they could, and they were in the streets, and then they went to public places like banks, and they killed people. And then they started going from house to house. So they went from house to house. They would knock and open up the doors, and they'd look around, are there any Jews here? They'd see if there was any Jews. So they opened up the door. He was sitting there with his friends, and they said, any Jews here? And they said, no. His friends, they said, no. And they looked at him. They said, what about him? They sent some. They said, no, he's one of us. So they said, okay, Alan. They looked at him. They said, we made a mistake. If everybody said he's one of us, okay. So they left. So that was it, Menashe, he was on the winning side. He made the right choice. He left the Jews. They were all getting killed, and he was with the Arabs, right? And they went to the next house. All of a sudden, he stood up. He ran out on the street. He ran after them and said, no, I'm a Jew. I'm Jewish. And they killed him. They killed him. The Arabs afterwards told the story. Because the Arabs, they tried to say it wasn't us that did it. We tried to save him. Well, what made him do it? What made him do it? He was a winner. And the Jews were the losers. They made the right choice. He saved his life. He was with the Arabs. Now, all of a sudden, something lit up inside of him. That he didn't care if he lived or he died. Up to that time, he said, I'm a good Jew like everybody else. A good Jew doesn't have to keep Shabbos. A Jew doesn't have to put on tefillin. A Jew doesn't have to eat kosher food. I'm a good Jew. All of a sudden, he's saying, I'm alive because I'm not a Jew. That's too much. Right? The fact that I'm not a Jew, that's what's keeping me alive? No. That all of a sudden, something woke up inside of him. He didn't think about what was going to happen to him. He didn't use his mind. Up to then, he was using his mind. He wants to do what's good for him. He wants to have a good time. Here he's not having a good time. He's not having anything. just doing that's called the godly soul. Suddenly something woke up inside of him, right? A love of God. It's not the God that you find in the synagogue. It's not the God you find. It's God. When you say. And that he didn't know, he didn't realize, but that's the God that's found in the shul also, in the synagogue also. That's the God when you put on tefillin. That's the God that told us to put on tefillin. But he reinterpreted. But he couldn't reinterpret. There was too much. So that's called the godly soul. Nothing can put it out. It's always there. It's always burning. But what? Maybe you don't know. Like the Rebbe said, there's people, they don't know they're Jews. People get confused. People have bad personalities. Dugmash is like people, like a person says anger. A person who gets angry, it says that his soul leaves him. Sometimes the person can get angry and he can just go berserk. This godly soul, the fire in the godly soul, the dugmas is like Eish Shalamayla. It's like fire from above. The Ein Amayim, that water does not mechabim ota, put it out. Ubazeh, and in this fire of the godly soul, ubazeh, in this fire of the godly soul, tzorich, it's necessary lihiyot, to be hahakrava, the sacrificing, or the making close, shall the nefesh abahamis, of the animal soul. What does it mean, the animal soul? The animal soul is not bad. Judaism doesn't say don't get married and don't have a job, just sit in the room all day and learn Torah, don't do anything else. Good, there's certain people that maybe that's good for them, right? But not getting married, for sure you have to get married, you have to have a family, you have to be in the world. Shagam, who, that also the animal soul, will be low to it, ava, love, lelokus, to godliness. That also the animal soul. Now again, what is the animal soul? What's another name for the animal soul? Do you remember? What's a two-letter word for the animal soul? Me. Right? Or a one-letter word for the animal soul? I. The animal soul is me. That's what the animal soul is. You have page 1, the back of page 1. Oh, you don't have it? Okay, here. What did here? So, what is the animal soul? The animal soul is me. We're not telling you to wipe out yourself. Like, this is not the Eastern religions or something. No personality, no tomorrow, no yesterday, no parents, no friends, no nothing, just nothingness. We'll sit there. All there is just being. That's not reality. That, in some way, that's the biggest ego trip of all, because you're just doing it in order for your own self, right? You want permanent pleasure? Yeah, that's what I want. Okay, then just sit there and think of this word. Look at this picture all day. Permanent pleasure you get. Good. It's an ego trip. Here the Rebbe is saying exactly the opposite. Give your ego over to your godly soul. Your godly soul is connected to the Creator. The Creator knows what He's doing. The Creator creates all these creations, all these animals. They all have hearts. They all have circulatory systems. They all have respiratory systems. God knows what He's doing. He's keeping the world very active, very active. If you really give yourself over to the Creator, you're going to be very active, right? You're going to be very, very active. Maybe you'll sleep a little bit less. Maybe you'll talk a little bit less foolishness. But on the other hand, you're going to be more active. You're going to be more positive. You'll spend less time in depression and running after your own desires and thinking how I can make a world a better place. And the world won't knock you down, right? And you won't get angry so quickly because you'll be, right? You won't waste your time. You won't be like everybody else. And you'll be unique. Everybody gets angry. When everybody gets angry, they have the same face. People that get depressed, they look exactly the same. A depressed person is exactly the same as everybody else. Right? You lose your personality. Here we're talking about a person activating his personality. How? By connecting yourself to who gave you the personality. God. That's what it says, that your animal soul becomes activated and is given over to the animal. Shagam hu, that also it. Second line. Third word from the end of the second line. Gam hu, that also it. Also the animal soul, and also your personality, will be low to it. Ahava, love, leluchus, to God.
Like it says, Ve'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha, you should love God, your God, b'chol, with all, levavecha, with all of your heart. What does it mean, with all of your heart? Omer Razal, the rabbis say, Bishnei Yitzarecha, with both of your yitzers, with both of your powers of imagination. A person has two powers of imagination. One power of imagination is that he imagines that God really exists and that the world is really a good place and that God really cares about him and that God is really close to him and that it makes a difference what I do, and then when I do a commandment, something really happens in the world. When I learn Torah, something happens. You have to use your imagination in order to think, because without your imagination, all you see is a world. How do you interpret the world? Then you also have what's called a bad imagination, a yetzer hara. Your bad imagination says, right, what am I going to get out of this? How am I going to get pleasure out of this? What am I going? I want instant gratification. I want it all, and I want it now. But how am I going to get it? That's what the yetzer hara says. He's worried. Maybe somebody's going to take it away from me. Maybe it's not going to be good. Maybe it's not going to work. I have to be like everybody else. Right? It drives a person to take drugs, to do all sorts of crazy things, because he goes berserk. Right? He just wants pleasure, more, give me, maybe give me. That's the yetzer hara. The yetzer hara eventually the evil impulse wants eventually to kill a person. That's what it says. Eventually what it really wants is to kill a person. And people steal, they cheat, they lie. Right? They grow beards and they have tzitzis and stuff like that in order so that people will believe in them. And then they can cheat a person better, right? To trick people. That's called the yetzer hara. The yetzer hara wants to trick a person, and worst of all, it wants to trick me. It tricks a person himself to who he is. It says even that yetzer hara can come to love God. What do you mean they'll come to love God? Tegam, a nefesh abam, is that also the God, animal soul. It says elsewhere in the Chassidus that really the yetzer hara, the evil impulse, can't really love God. It has to be just ignored totally. Right? This impulse to cheat people, you can't use that for godliness. But maybe in certain ways, like it says that Yaakov cheated Esav when he saw that Esav wanted to kill him, so he made up a story. He said, listen, you know what, go a little further, I'll meet you later. I'll meet up with you. So in some ways, but you have to be very careful with this. Generally speaking, the yetzer hara, the power of destruction and the idea of selfishness can't be really transformed. You have to ignore it. What can be transformed is your animal soul, your simple ego, your personality, who you are, right? What you want, what you like. That's the animal soul. Yeh can have to it lo ahava lelokus, love for God. Love for God. You like good food? Good. Make it kosher food. Use the food in order you have the energy to serve God. Use it in order to invite guests to your house. You make the good food for them. They'll be impressed. It says in the Chabad houses that the woman, the man of the Chabad houses, they learn Torah and they have these, things speeches that they say on Shabbat, and they're very impressive, and they do all these things. And what finally really convinces the people to come over to be religious is the soup that their wife makes on Shabbos, right? They tell all these beautiful ideas about Torah and about mitzvahs and the oneness of God and the uniqueness of the Jewish people and their special purpose in the world. People, this is really great. But what really finally convinces the person? The chicken soup that the wife makes. Man, this is really good soup. Man, I really like the soup. Oh, that's it, right? The ideas you can find in books, your libraries are filled with ideas. But beautiful speakers you can find anywhere. But chicken soup like that, right? And so you can use cholent or apple pie or whatever in order to convince a person to be more close to God. It says that is how can you? Let's forget about talking about other people. How can you come closer to God? It comes al yedei by means of hitlabshut, in clothing, hanefesh elokis, the godly soul, in nefesh abaham is the animal soul. How do you put the godly soul into your animal soul? How do you do it? Which word? Nefesh elokit? Huh? Say loud. Hitlabshut. In clothing. I don't know if there is such a word as in clothing. Clothing, maybe. Could be. I looked it up in the dictionary, didn't find it. Yeah? Yeah, enclosed, okay. The nefesh bahamid. Putting the godly soul into the animal soul. What does it mean, putting the godly soul into the animal soul? How do you do this? You want a pen? You have a pen. 1 second. Here we go. Here. Give this young man a pen. Here. Want a pen to catch. Oh, excellent. Putting the godly soul into the animal soul. Now, what does it mean, putting the godly soul into the animal soul? The B'techila did in the beginning. Harei, behold, hanefesh bahamid, the animal soul. Ein lo, there is not to it shum, any yediyah, knowledge, vehergish, or feeling. The animal soul has no awareness or feeling bi'inyanei, in matters elokus of God klal at all. The animal soul wants tangible things. What are you supposed to do with God? I mean, whether I believe in God or I don't believe in God, right? I'm eating a sandwich. The sandwich is the same sandwich. Money is the same money. There's billions of people that don't believe in God, and they live okay. You see the pictures in the paper, they're succeeding, right? Movie stars, and there's a whole world out there. Everybody. All the sports greats, and all the professors, these people don't believe in God. They're living okay lives. What's the point, right? The animal soul has no conception, feeling, awareness, or necessity for God at all. Doesn't you live your life? I don't see what's the point. You live your life like an animal, Like I say, there's big professors, big geniuses that write big books, and they prove there's no such thing as God, and you don't need. It's even bad for you. That's bad to believe in God. Right? Freud and these people, they said it was just a hang-up. People believe in God. It's a hang-up. It's something, you're neurotic. There's something wrong with you. Live a real life. Come on, right? Be involved. Just be free. Do what you want. What is all these rules? Right? What's going on? Why? It says the animal soul has no conception, feeling, necessity, urge for godliness at all. Nothing. But the godly soul is exactly the opposite. The godly soul only wants godliness. It knows that God is creating everything. It's willing even to give its life for God. With all the pleasures and the professorships and the books and the success and everything's willing to give everything just for God, the godly soul. The godly soul. But what? The animal soul has something that can connect it to God. Right? What is this? It's called intellect. The animal soul has intellect, and above intellect is what's called conscience. The animal soul has conscience. We're talking about a Jew and a non-Jew. Right? You have a thing called conscience. Conscience connects you to something that's something weird, something spooky, right? I didn't like that. There's a famous book called, what's it called? I read it a long time ago. It's called Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. If I remember correctly, I learned how much I must have read this book 45 years ago, even more. It's about a guy that he wants to experience everything or something. Anyway, he kills somebody. He kills an old lady. Just kills her. They can never catch him because he has no motive and they didn't even know the person. He comes into her house and he kills her. And then it talks about psychologically what happens in his mind. How in his mind it works, and he's thinking about, is it right, is it wrong? And finally his conscience prevails over him. That he said, I did a wrong thing. I killed somebody. He was free. He had no reason to feel guilt. He had no reason, but he realized that there was some sort of a higher truth than what he was living in. Right? Realize that there is such a thing as right and wrong, absolute right and wrong. Absolutely, you're not supposed to kill people for no reason. You can't just kill people. Maybe if a person's coming to kill you, maybe you can protect yourself. But you can't. You realize that there's something. So even the animal soul has a sense of right and wrong. It's up there, floating around over there somewhere. That's the source of the 7 Noahide commandments. It's the source of the 7 Noahide commandments. Like I told you this before, but the Rebbe said even those people that are homosexuals, God forbid, and that and it's completely, totally accepted. Like in America, you can't say anything against these people. You're a homophobe. You're like not normal. What are you talking? What's wrong with it? And at first glance, they're right. What's wrong with doing that? The Rebbe said that even where it's totally accepted and it's their way of life and it's their nature and it's all these things, they know it's wrong. The Rebbe said deep down they know it's wrong. Right? From that, I came to the understanding. What happened? Okay, for that I came to the understanding that there is a absolute right and wrong that can be perceived by everyone. It says that's what the animal soul does. The animal soul senses there's something that's called right and wrong. But what? You can always have a Stalin or a Mao Zedong or Hitler, somebody that stands up and says right and wrong is communism or fascism, the country. Now this, you have to, right, or somebody like, what's his name, Jean-Paul Sartre, these people do. Right and wrong is doing what you want, feeling good, be faithful to your power of pleasure. You have to have pleasure, enjoy the world, right? So that can be, it can be twisted around, your feeling of conscience, be twisted around. But eventually, it comes, the conscience comes to something that's true. That's the job of the Jews. The job of the Jews is supposed to be to show the world there's human beings just like everybody else, and they have the same desires as everybody else, but they're totally given over to absolute right and wrong. That's what their whole devotion is, to absolute right and wrong. Right? That's godly soul inside of each one of us. Each person has a godly soul that it's totally devoted to right and wrong. And it's not so difficult. You don't have to make it up yourself. We have the Torah. The Torah says it's wrong to steal, it's wrong to lie, it's wrong to cheat, it's wrong to be lazy, it's wrong to get angry, it's wrong to, these are things that are wrong according to the Torah. Yes, it's true, there's religious people that do these things, and they even do it according to the Torah. You can find in the Torah also ways to twist everything around. But absolutely, in the end, there's such thing as tzaddikim, righteous people, and these people are totally devoted to these principles of truth as they're found in the Torah, and that's what they come to teach us. That's the idea of the tzaddikim bringing the Shekhinah down to the world. Right? That suddenly people start to act in a way that's right and wrong according to the Torah. According to the Torah. Right? Who would believe that Christianity is idolatry? Who would believe? Who would think that Christianity is idolatry? It's a wonderful religion, there's billions of people that believe in it. Who would think of something? But there are among them people that they sense, maybe something's wrong over here. But if they never know what Judaism is, they never know what really God is, right? Then they what do you want from them? I don't know if their leaders know the truth. Usually the simple people know the truth. It could be, right? But when Jews stand up and they say, yes, it's okay, it's all right, we're your friends with it, it's a problem. That's why the Rebbe said you have to tell people that there's 7 Noahide commandments, and at least to let them know there is such a thing as truth. There is such a thing as truth. Because in the end, them convincing themselves that what they're doing is okay is something like the homosexual convincing himself that it's okay, or Stalin convincing everybody that it's okay to kill, or right? It's covering over the truth. It's covering over the truth. Says the Rebbe that our job is to bring the truth into reality, to bring the godly soul into the animal soul. That's what the Rebbe says. The Gam and Nefesh HaBa'am is that also the animal soul, will be low to it, Ahava Lelokus, love to God. And there's stories, I can't begin to tell the stories now. There's so many stories about Jews that were communists and that they had to have their children circumcised. Right? They brought their children secretly to have them circumcised. There used to be a moel here in Kfar Chabad. What was the name? Yosef Yitzhak Rifkin. Raskin. He circumcised 2 of my children. And he told me stories about people who were, big KGB agents, and they came to him separately, and they brought the child to be circumcised. And if it was revealed that they had the child circumcised, they would lose their jobs. It would be terrible for them. Right? But they couldn't bear not to have their child circumcised. Of course, a lot of them could bear, and they did. A lot of 99% of the Jews in Russia were not circumcised, right? But now they're circumcised. There's this group called Yosef Yitzhak. Bris Yosef Yitzhak. And they do these circumcisions. Still, there's a lot of them that don't. There were people, though, that were willing to risk their lives and their jobs and their everything to have their children circumcised. What for? Nobody was doing it. It's a ridiculous old thing. Is that they felt something here is godly. Something is godliness, right? It forced them to do what's right. Yes?
Were the ones who were circumcised, and they had no way of doing it, are they still in the covenant?
Sure, of course. A Jew is a Jew. They have an obligation to be circumcised.
No, even the ones that did get circumcised, are they within the covenant? All these tens of thousands of Yidden.
Oh, sure. For sure they are. They're 100% Jews like everybody else. There's just certain things that they're not. That says there's a Korban Pesach. They couldn't bring a Korban Pesach. There's some opinions that say they shouldn't eat the afikomen nowadays. I don't know. I heard that. But he's 100% Jew like everybody else. He's obligated in all the commandments. His children are Jewish. Everything. But he has one commandment that he has to do. He has to circumcise himself. He has to be circumcised. Okay. Hine, behold, these people in Bris Yosef Yisrael, he told me a story that once a guy was like 90 years old. He came to be circumcised. So they said to him, listen, it's dangerous. Maybe we should, he said, listen, I've heard about this, that you have to be circumcised. He said, if it's dangerous, that I would rather die a Jew than to live another minute, right, uncircumcised. But that's, yeah. They used to do brisses in my house upstairs. But, okay, so the Nefesh Abam says, let's see, here we go. The Gam and Nefesh Abam is that this comes al yadei by means of hislabshus and clothing the godly soul and the animal soul. Come. The techila that in the beginning, last word on the fourth line, in the beginning, hare behold, the Nefesh Abam is the animal soul. Ein lo shum yediyah, has no awareness. Behergish, no knowledge or feeling be'inyan elokus of matters of godliness at all. Amnam, but al yadei by means of hislabshut in clothing. And nefesh eloki is putting the godly soul inside of the animal soul. How do you do that? How do you put your godly soul in your animal soul? Mitbonen. You use your intellect. You use your intellect. You use your mind. It's Chabad Chasidus. Chesed, Chachma, Bina, and Das are aspects of the intellect. Chachma is your power of conception. If you want to, you can call it your conscience or your sense of truth. Faith. It's called Chachma, what's above understanding. Bina is understanding it, and Das is connecting it. Mitbonen, and you contemplate, mitbonen is to contemplate, bitbonenut eloki, in thoughts about God. In other words, what do you think? You read a mimer of Chassidut, and you think, is this stuff real? Is this stuff really real? Is this man kidding? Is he talking about something real, or is he just talking about, ideas? Is this really actual? God is really creating me every single second. God really wants me to come close to Him. I'm supposed to love God? I'm supposed to love God? In Israel, there was a professor, a big professor, right? And his whole thing was that you should do the commandments. You should do the commandments only because they're not understandable. Sort of this, Kafka-esque, the world is meaningless, and Judaism is even more meaningless, and that's why you should do the commandments, because they are meaningless. You should do them because you must live a meaningless life and be connected to the meaningless that is above meaning. Yeah, that's all very nice, but there's also a commandment to love God. You can't love something that's meaningless. Exactly the opposite. You can only love something that has very great meaning to you. If I say to you, here, love this, what do you got in your hand? Doesn't make any difference. Love it. How can I love it? You're nuts. How can you love the thing? If you're supposed to love, come on, let's say love, right? Now, if you were in actor's school, that you could pretend yes, I do want this. Pretend you love it, right? Imitate somebody who's loving. You can arouse the emotions of love in your heart for nothing. Absolutely nothing. You can do it, but that's not real. That's not genuineness, right? That's not being genuine. That's not being meaningful. Meaningful means you're a meaningful actor. Meaningful means that God has to be so meaningful to you, you actually have love for Him like you have love for money. For instance, is that possible? Can you do a thing like that? It says yes. That if you think in terms, the Gama nature of Nefesh Abam is that even the animal soul, Yochel, is able hasigo to understand it. Right? You tell a person, God is creating you, there's the Vatzilus to be up, who cares? Did you know that God, do you like apple pie? Yes, you know where apple pie comes from? Where? From God. Are you serious? It says, yes, apple pie comes from God. Now, I didn't know that. Well, that's just beautiful, right? All of a sudden, this guy understands apple pie. Apple pie talks to him, right? The reason, you know why the Dodgers won the game? Because God gave them a blessing. Really? If you would say, why the White Sox won the game, the Yankees wouldn't care. Say the Dodgers won because God gave them the success. Yes, I love God. It has to be something that the animal soul understands. Right? What do you mean God wanted this? Yeah, well, how did, what's his name? McGregor make that catch over there in left field? Did you see the ball sort of slow down a little bit? He said, yeah, I sort of noticed that, but I thought it was the wind factor. Look, you'll see it wasn't the wind factor. It was a miracle. Yes, yes, I believe. You know, first of all, it has to be in a way that a person sees maybe God exists. Then from that he can start thinking, well, maybe God creates me. Maybe God doesn't have to do things for me. Maybe I should do things for God. Right? Maybe I owe the world a debt. Not the world owes me something. All of a sudden a person starts thinking, right? Maybe God exists. Then he can start to get excited about God, about Hashem. It has to be Yochlasigo. Hine, behold, al yedezeh, by means of this, naaseh, there is made ha'it karvut, a coming close, a nefesh b'hamis, of the animal soul of your personality. Like it's written b'makom acher in another place, in naaseh, that there is made chakika, an impression, klalit, a general impression. Klalit means general. Ba'nefesh b'hamit, in your personality, in your self, there's made a general impression to elukus, that God, who gam kain, is also davar, a thing, hamuvan, that's understood, vehamusag, and graspable. In other words, that God is not just a character in the Bible, that God really exists, and you can understand something about him. You can understand something about him. That's the essence of loving God. You have to understand something. Which word, Kobe? Hitkarvut, come close. Anefesh elokis. Okay, let me do that sentence again. Ukamosh katuv, like it's written b'makom acher, another place. Shena'aseh, that there is made. Okay, I went back, right? Chakika, impression. Write that word down. I don't know it. Chakika means an impression. Klalit, general impression. B'nefesh b'hamit, in your animal soul. In other words, in yourself. The elokus, that godliness, who is gam kain, also davar, a thing, hamuvan v'hamusag, that's understood and graspable. So that what you will decide, you know what, from now on, maybe I will do things for God. Maybe God is my partner. I will do things with God. Right? Everything I realize, I will give thanks to God. But first of all, you have to have a feeling that maybe I'm really being created. If not, then the whole thing is just, it's, religion. Religion is nice. It's okay. Religion is good. But it's not exciting. It's not exciting. You have to have religion. The Jewish religion has to be exciting. Like it says, Eish dat lamo. It's a fiery religion in Zota Bracha. Eish dat. Eish means fire. Dat means religion. Judaism has to be religion. Yes, it's religion. Yeah, there's all these rituals. There's all the things you have to do. But it has to be alive. You have to be alive. How do you do that? By realizing that these things come from the living God. The same God that's creating me and creating the world. He's the one that's giving me these commandments. Right? To connect to something deeper. You become emotional. It becomes very exciting. Behold, achar kach, afterwards, so what comes out of this? That you believe in God. What comes out of it? Achar kach comes who it is Rav Tavuos, much benefit, bekoach shor, in the power of an ox. If you tame an ox, you get a lot of power from it. Shemitapech, that your animal soul, mitapech, it transforms. Mi behamiyuto, from its animalness. Your animal stops being an animal, the oleh, and it goes up. It, how do you say, elevates. The nichlal, and is included, barish ve'esh, a flaming fire, shuka, desire, shebenefesh elokis, in a godly soul. Ukamo, just like, she'al yadei, that by means of. So, and let me just say a short way. When do you activate this godly soul so that it starts to flame up? Davening. That's why we have a half an hour between the class in davening so you can think about God. You can put it on your tefillin. Think about the mimer that you learned. Think about it. Understand it. Then think, is this really real? You start to feel the excitement in it. And then you start to feel the godliness in it. That's why we have a half an hour to sit and think, is this stuff really real? Am I really praying to God? But again, in order to do that, you have to know the meaning of the words of davening. You have to know each and every word. Then when you know the simple meaning, then you can start putting life into it. But if you don't know the meaning, then you're just sitting and rambling. Right? You could just say the whole day banana. Just write down banana. Banana, 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 banana. Some people do it. They do. They don't know what they're saying. People don't know what they're saying. And even the people that do know what the meaning of the word. Don't think about it. They have to think about something else. It says the time of making your godly soul flame up is davening. That's prayer in the morning. That's what Chabad Chassid. That's why we learn Chassidut before davening. Why? Why don't we learn it in the middle of the day? It's theories, nice ideas, beautiful philosophy. No, you learn it before davening so that you'll actually get excited when you daven. If you don't get excited when you're davening, then you're missing something. You're missing a big chunk of Judaism. You're missing the heart of Judaism. Right? There's people that can live with like animated people. You animate the person. It could be that the guy's even dead. Right? You color, you just put strings to it, and it moves the same thing. You move your body, you do what you're supposed to in Judaism, but there's no heart. When is the heart? When you're sitting with your friends, watching a movie, you like come alive. That's me. Right? Okay, but it's stupid. Stupid. If that's where your life is, then you're missing a whole big part of your life. Your life is supposed to be that you're attached to Hashem. Then sit with your friends. Then you'll see what movies you want to see, if at all, right? If God really interests you, and you're interested in the Creator, and with the Creator, and you're excited about it, like it says, we say twice a day, you should love God with all of your heart, all of your might, all of your soul, all of your soul, all of your might. You have to love. Love is an emotion. In order to love God, you have to close your eyes a little bit, think about Hashem. All of a sudden, you realize, hey, Hashem, you're okay, right? So that's called, when you do that, after you finish davening, then what do you have? You have a lot of power from your godly soul, your animal soul. Kamo al yedei korban gashmi, just like a physical sacrifice. What? Agashmi hari misborer, it becomes refined. Hanitzutzim, the sparks of domem tzameach chai, datzach. For 5 more minutes. Hine, behold, domem tzameach chai, the physical, the mineral, plant, and animal. We'll talk about this more tomorrow. Hine, behold, kamokin, similarly, al yedei, by means of hahakrava, of the sacrifice, baruch is spiritual. Hare, behold, misborer, there is refined, umitapech, and transformed, hachashucha, the darkness, the nefesh abahamis of the animal soul, linahora, to light. That's by means of just thinking about God, contemplating. And this is, and how do you contemplate God? You read mimers. You read a mimer of Chassidut, and you think about it. And this is v'asuli mikdash, make me a mikdash, v'shachanti betocham, and I will dwell inside of them. The betoch, that inside of kol echad ve'echad, each and every person, you can be a holy temple with fire, excitement. Hari, behold, al yedei avodah, so by means of your service, bebechinas eskafia, by means of serving God, in a way of forcing yourself to love God, forcing yourself to think about God. Willpower. Iker, and the main thing, a mevi, which brings liadeis hapcha. Eventually it becomes natural. Eventually you have love. Hine, behold, kadas kafia sitra achra, when there is pushed down. The sitra achra is stalik, there spreads out, yakora, the glory of Hashem, bekulo omim, in all worlds. Bechinat or, the level of light, the gilo and revelation. That what is this? The level of Soviv Kol Omim, the level of God which surrounds all the worlds, that the essence of God, above even Atzilus, is revealed down here just because of you. Huh? What? Kad, when? Aramaic. Kad, when? Okay, rabbis, have a good day. Now, one thing I want to say. You're going to go to Hebron, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I worked really hard. If you're not going to, then tell me. Don't decide last minute. What?
you can't be ready.
There were 4 people. I asked for 4 people.
4 people. Who's going?
Oh, Eitan. Oh, so you're not counting it.
Yeah, I'm still thinking maybe I'll go.
Anyway, listen. Those people who go, I thought you were one of the 4. That's why I'm sorry. I didn't know you were. That's. Oh, we have to turn it on. Can we edit this? Oh, huh? Oh, yes. And farewell, my friends, until the next class. Just finished class number 7, and God willing, look forward to